I'd like for you to take a deep breath in, a proper full deep breath in. And while you're doing that as well, notice how your body is engaged as you're breathing. It's very simple. So your task is to observe how your body is moving, putting your hand at the lower belly and at the chest, and notice how your system is interacting with breath. Okay, so I'll give you a second. Fantastic. I hope you did that. Now, observe. How did your body move? Did your shoulders rise? And also your chin, your neck becoming tight? You can see these muscles. Did your chest also move upwards and your shoulders moving upward as you're taking your breath? Did your core go inward? Did you find like your rib cage area becoming slender as you're breathing in, like it's squeezing inwards? Or did you find anything different? Just take a note, just breathe again and observe and tell me what you find. If I told you that way of breathing, the way you just did, is the improper approach to breathing. And that particular way of breathing is the absolute reason as to why we have the challenges and we have the inability to fully meet our dreams, our desires and goals every single time we set them. The system does not know how to support creation. The system is constantly in survival. Every single time we're breathing this way is similar to every single time you're startled. Imagine if you get startled. Your body will behave literally the same way it did if you took a breath, as I explained earlier. So every single inhale and exhale you're taking is shallow, is labored. Why is it labored? Because it feels like you're going against gravity. It's as if you're fighting your body's natural ability to sit and gently take in breath. And if you want to notice even further, observe a child. Just think about a child or a baby. When these beings are sleeping, a baby or an animal, you notice it's their core that is expanding and contracting, expanding and contracting. So if yours is going the opposite, contracting your belly while you're inhaling, already by default, you're against the natural flow of how we should be inhaling and exhaling. Imagine the structure of your respiratory organs. The trachea all the way the lungs, and then below the lungs is a dome-shaped muscle called the diaphragm. So this is the breathing muscle, the diaphragm. When we breathe like this, we are using our shoulders to support our lungs, and in doing so, we are underutilizing what is essentially the breathing muscles. We are activating shallow breath, and when we're activating shallow breath, we are activating the part of our nervous system called the sympathetic nervous system. The body does not naturally know how to rest, because why? The neurotransmitters being released and the body's state is constantly telling the body, walk, move, do. So even when you're on holiday, when you're on leave, when you're taking time out, you're constantly fidgeting because we don't really know how to rest, which is why you can be on holiday, but the ability to really connect and release and let go and be on holiday, be on leave is a challenge. That's why when you have a long period out of work, you don't know how to do that, because work is the only way for you to find some form of balance, because your system is constantly in that state that forces you to also be catching up constantly with life. Now, the problem with this is life feels like it's gripping us by the throat, and we get trapped in this idea that we must be doing, striving, achieving, forgetting the single most essential thing about being human. It's not human doing, it is human being. So, but because we are constantly doing, we don't know how to balance doing and being. We've forgotten. Why? Because our bodies does not know how to be, because we've been conditioning it ever since we can remember to do, but not to be. Have like one round of breath in a minute, literally one breath per minute, and the most ideal is between 5.5 to 6 breaths a minute. So if we're constantly shallow breathing, already we're doing too much. We are over oxygenating the body, and the challenge with this is this: we don't give the body the space for it to actually break down breath, to consume breath. Now, we live in the modern cities, which already by default the air is thinner because it's polluted. It's not conducive for human development and growth. That thin air, highly polluted, is less concentrated with spirit, with the energy, life force that we need, which is why being in nature, being in the forest can be very soothing and healing, because it's more purified compared to being in the city. So when you're living in the city, when you're living in very busy places, when you're living in spaces where it's congested and polluted already by default, the life force in the air that you're breathing is limited, and then the way you're breathing is shallow. So your shallow breathing combined with the minimal life force energy in the air that we breathe in these cities that we live in continuously make it very difficult for us as human beings to actually be. This shift has made it harder for us to connect to the life force that sustains us. This is the spirit that flows through all living beings. And as we continue to shallowly breathe the way we have been, we trade our ability to tap into life force for stress, for anxiety, for tension. There is a way to actually reverse this entire process. But first, it begins with awareness. We have to constantly be aware of our breath. How exactly do we reverse this entire process? The solutions begin with this simple practice I call 360 breath. Now, what is a 360 breath? It's a process of enlarging and creating more room for your lungs and your breathing organs, including also your heart, to have more space to actually take in prana, which is life force, which is through spirit, which is through breath, and literally utilize this to enhance our human experience. Okay, so how do we do this? How do we activate the 360 breath? Now, I want you to imagine a balloon and a jug or a jerrycan. When you're filling a jerrycan, you'll first notice that the water or the liquid will fill the base all the way to the brim. And when you're blowing up a balloon, it expands evenly. Now, you will need to combine both of these visualizations in your breathing. So when you take a deep breath in, I want you to imagine first that it's your belly, your lower belly enlarging, expanding, coming up all the way slowly as it fills all your belly and then your chest. And if you can, follow that breath all the way to the crown, and then releasing that breath from the crown all the way down to your lower belly. And while doing that, I want you to imagine now your chest is expanding outwards this way instead of going this way. Okay, so when you're taking a breath in, your shoulders will stay still, your neck will stay unbothered. Just notice, I will show an example very shortly. Your shoulders will stay still, your neck will stay gentle, no muscles, no tightening, because you're not fighting with breath. You're genuinely trying to breathe. And if you notice, no child, no animal labors in their breathing. So an example is very gentle. I'll show you right now. I'll take a deep breath in. I can add more breath, add more breath, add more breath, more breath, more breath, and then the brim. And I can hold this for as long as I want to hold. I'm capable of holding. And then when I'm exhaling, it's from the tip of the crown, moving down gently, all the way to the base. Now, when you're breathing like this, automatically, you'll create more room for your lungs to expand. Why? The diaphragm will move downwards, pushing your core outwards. And at the same time, your rib cage will expand naturally. This way will open more. And when it opens more, there's more room for your heart to expand in its beating, and there's more room for your lungs to enlarge its capacity for holding breath. And on top of that, if you go ahead step further and add gaps to your breathing, so you hold a bit in your inhale at the tip and you hold a bit in your exhale at the base, you add more time for proper exchange of energy in that single breath, so you maximize every single breath you take in return, lower your rate of breathing, slow down your heartbeat, slow down your muscles, calm your body, and activate the vagus nerve, especially when you're engaging your core. Activate the vagus nerve, which is part of the parasympathetic nervous system, which in its transmission of information up and down the body activates the release of endorphins. dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin. These are the feel-good hormones, the internal pharmacy that we need to actually enable our bodies to heal itself when it needs to heal itself, to raise your body's defenses, to raise your body's immune system, to raise your body's ability to fight for itself, to raise your energy levels, to raise your ability to have a clear mind because of the brain body mind connection, which is through your breath, to actually open your heart so you can start to feel joy, pleasure, sensuality, slow down, learn to really love life. If you're inhaling, imagine you're filling a balloon. Imagine that balloon expanding in all directions. As you let in breath, you imagine it filling the base and then flowing up all the way to the crown. And at the tip of the crown, imagine when you're exhaling, it's exhaling from the tip of the crown all the way down to the base of your core. So you have to suck in your stomach in when you're breathing out, and you have to enlarge your core outwards when you're breathing in. In doing so, you allow depth in interaction with breath. You activate the vagus nerve, which is important if you're seeking to truly experience joy and fullness of life. When you shallow breathe, this entire journey of allowing your core to activate the vagus nerve is not incorporated in your breathing. Now, when this happens, we steal from ourselves our ability to process emotions, our ability to connect with our physical bodies, our ability to slow down our mind so we can actually hear ourselves think, our ability to connect with our true innate selves, our ability to open our hearts. When we properly learn how to breathe, we start to really activate the body's ability to really function in its most optimal state. Now, the magic about this breathing is beyond even just how important it is to activating your physical being. This type of breathing allows us to activate our ability to notice the interconnectedness of every single thing in nature, truly embodying that realization and not just talking about it because we've intellectualized the concept and not truly embodying it. We start to awaken our bodies, we start to awaken our minds, and we start to awaken our hearts. So truthfully, this approach to breathing, the 360 approach to breathing, is the gateway to healing. Your way of breathing determines whether your cup is half full and whether your cup is half empty from an embodied perspective. And it's not just about the intellectual knowledge of understanding breathing. It's the experiential bit of it that is a lot more important, because the physical body is for experience. The physical body demands experience. So every single time we are in deep connection with the body, by the way we breathe, then we teach the body to understand that we are actually experiencing safety in the environment we are in. And when things are not as safe in the environment outside of us, we have the capacity internally to regulate ourselves or to bring ourselves back to homeostasis, so we can actually start to respond to life instead of reacting. So we can actually start to see opportunities and ways we can bring our ideas and desires to life instead of reacting through life and finding 1,000 ways of avoiding to take responsibility of the way life is going. And the reason being is we don't have capacity for doing that. We don't have our body support for us to achieve that. So when we breathe properly, we come into how we learn to achieve our goals, how we learn to make our lives meaningful, how we learn to fill our cups, how we learn to connect with ourselves, our authentic selves, and how we learn to really show up in the world in the way we have the capacity to show up in. You probably would like to ask me, okay, fine, Chebet, you're saying that I'm breathing wrongly based on how I'm breathing, and you're explaining to me an approach of how to fix this. When did this happen? When did I lose my ability to breathe in the way that you're showing? Since you're saying I used to do this when we were kids, because we used to do this. We all used to breathe properly since we were children. We all used to breathe in alignment since we were babies. But the truth is, when life, after we were born, we were left to fend ourselves as far as self-regulation tools are concerned. So based on how you were nurtured growing up, if you were raised in a space where ability to learn to regulate yourself was non-existent, then that muscle within us is not activated. So then our system went straight to default. Birth itself for you and I was challenging. For the child itself, that's why the first thing we do is cry, was in itself a traumatic experience. And then go beyond that. You as a baby, you're crying for your mom, you're needing attention, and nobody picks you up. And then now you have to start to learn to fend for yourself. And you have to teach yourself how to rewire your reactions, you rewire your response, so you can get the attention and the support that you're looking for. Now the problem with this is simple. Very simple normal practices will lead us to this particular state. It doesn't need to be traumatic experiences or deep trauma or complex constant exposure to trauma. Our nervous system is already set up to support you for survival. So because of that, your ability to actually see things through, your ability to actually create, to actually fully experience life is not a setting that you currently have, which is why I'm saying that this practice, learning to do this, will help you actually meet and achieve your goals. Because why? Your heart knows you have that ability. Your body and your mind, they're not on that WhatsApp group. So you kind of have to start teaching your body how to come back online, and then you want to rewire your mind, which is a different stage, but it first begins with how we breathe. Since we've been born till this point, we are constantly, exceedingly being exposed to too much stimulation to our nervous system. And because of that, we don't have our natural ability to activate defenses, and we go into what is the norm, what has been working, and we've been doing that over and over and over. Your body is responding to your reality, your world around you, as if you're constantly in stress. But the truth is, 95% of life is fantastic. 95% of life is good, but the 5% somehow overpowers this 95%. Because why? We get to look for the 5% and not observe and notice the 95%, which is fantastic. So this practice will start to draw in your ability to slow down, so you can start to notice this massive opportunities that is constantly around us, that will show you that life is amazingly safe, life is supporting life, and life, the world around you, desires for you to actually have an optimum experience. But if we're in survival, we don't see that. Since our bodies does not support us to see that, it makes it very difficult for us to acknowledge, notice, realize when this experience is in this particular state. The good news is we don't have to stay there. The good news is, while the first few days, maybe the first 21 days, will be a bit mechanical, because you have to constantly remind your body how to properly breathe. After 2-3 months, your entire body, which was personally part of my experience, your body starts to absolutely shift, and this new practice starts to become your behavior. And when you get to that level, that's it. Your system just picks up naturally, because it's something we used to do, we just forgot. It's part of who we are, we just forgot. So your job is to remind yourself, and the moment it works this way, that's it. Now from there, now you can start growing. Why? Because you've activated safety, you've activated stability in the body. Now you're no longer too in your sympathetic state, or maybe too in your parasympathetic state. It depends. Now you're constantly at a state where your body can start to actually live life instead of survive through life. Most of us are constantly in survival, and in learning to rewire the way we're breathing in this way, we absolutely shift the tables. And the moment you shift those tables, the game is done. The game is, you stop playing in the level of the game you've been playing, and you start to really activate your connection to your higher self, your connection to your best self, your connection to your most prosperous self. Why? Because now you get to really learn to slow down. You really learn to activate peace, which is sustainable. You learn to activate joy, which is sustainable. You learn to activate compassion, which is sustainable. It's not one thing that happens because you're high and you got really excited because of 1, 2, 3 things. No, it's because your whole body is conspiring to help you create this internal pharmacy of these magical neurotransmitters that keeps you at elevated state. Now from that elevated state, now you can start to deepen your connection to spirit. Look at it like charging a battery. At maybe we are constantly at 10%, but for us to deeply tap into higher self, we need to be at 100%. And learning to breathe like this will increase our capacity all the way to that level at 100, and in that level we become superhuman. What Joe Dispenza has always been talking about, we activate our ability to really become superhuman. If you really want for it to work in accordance to how you desire it, I ask you, join me. You don't have anything to lose. Relax your shoulders when you're breathing. Don't make it go this way or anything. Don't tighten. Don't make breathing hard work to do. Already there's enough life to do that. Make sure your breathing supports flow, supports ease, supports gentleness. And when you do that, prepare yourself for an absolutely different kind of life, a more full life, a more fulfilling life, a more enjoyable life. Breath is a gateway to life. And when you breathe deeply, we activate life. When we trade our ability to do, when you trade our ability to be with doing, the challenge with this is we activate with it things like selfishness, hatred, despair, irritability, cruelty, and harshness. This are what is the opposite of what the gift of spirit looks like. And the gift of spirit, as we know them, is gentleness, goodness, kindness, compassion, patience, peace, love. These are things that are natural to us as humans. And these are states that we get into. We activate these states via breath. So if you want to reactivate your humanness, to reactivate your ability to really tap in, your best bet is deepening your breath, because it all starts with a proper deep breath. I encourage you, practice this breathing. Feel your core from the base all the way to the crown, and while you're exhaling, exhale from the crown all the way to the base, allowing your core to expand and following your breath up and down to add that more touch, the tension to your breath. And at this level, we get to really understand that breathing is the gateway to life. And deep breathing is how we activate